Hello, this is Paleac, and in this video I'm going to do a little song breakdown for my new single that just came out called Bird Calling. You should go listen to it. So, this song doesn't have too much going on, kind of. Most of the complicated stuff happens in the sub bass, which I made an entire, like, hour-long tutorial explaining exactly how to replicate what I did there. So luckily I'm not gonna have to touch on that. For the most part, I'm gonna be talking about drums and some of the sound design. So I'll just play this little section here and then I'll break it down. That's enough of that. And if you would like to support the YouTube channel, then you could consider subscribing to my Patreon for $15 a month. Then you can get access to all of the sound design racks and audio effect racks that I use in this song, as well as a bunch of samples, textures, and all the good stuff that I also use in this song. So in the top layer, I have these sounds, which are cool little, like, bird sounds, you know? So how I made these, I don't remember precisely exactly what I did, because a lot of these sounds came from, this project file is like a year, 2 years old at this point. But, so what I did is I was messing around in Synplant, and at some point, Synplant just shot out like a bunch of like fucking bird noises, and I ended up slowing them down a lot. So I think, yeah, this little riser here, yeah, I think this was it. It was like a lot faster even. It was like, yeah. Just something like that. And then I slowed it down and I chopped up a bunch of little bits that created the melody, right? So that's essentially where all the bird sounds come from. There's some layering. It's just like pitched down versions that are pitched down 2 octaves. I also saturated a bit. And then I have a shifter here, which is, the rate is set to 1/3, so it's moving up and down by about 4 semitones, which is creating this like wobbly movement. And then I bring this in over time, over this bar, it's utility, and it's panning around. What's this? These are little fills. Right? Those are fun. And then here, just like some more bird sounds. All these are just like fucking bird sounds and stuff. Right? So yeah, that's that. And then the next biggest part is just the drums. So a few people asked me in the previous sub-bass tutorial video about the fucking snare. I didn't make the snare. I'm not that great at designing and creating drums myself. I'm trying to learn a little bit more about that, and then I can make a video in the future once I feel like I'm good enough to actually teach something new or interesting that hasn't already been done in other tutorials. So the snare clap whatever here sounds like this. And this originally was just a sample. Let me get epic clap groove. That's what it's called. That's what it originally sounded like. And then so I slowed it down a bit, and then I put a bunch of effects on it. So some EQ to clean it up, because there's some like rumble in the low end, soothe in the high end, because I don't know, it felt a little bit sharp there. And then what's interesting here is I used a lot of stab. So stab, or ST4B, is a multi-band transient shaper. It costs $50, and I got it I don't know, half a year ago, and it's super fucking worth it. I feel like it's upgraded my drums in general a lot. I got this from watching a frequent live stream. He was using it and just made his drums like really punchy. And so I've been playing around with it a lot. So what this does is there's this little transient shaping knob. So if you turn it all the way up, this means it preserves the transient and gets rid of the like spray tail at the end. And this is just for the high end. And then you can also adjust the makeup gain for each of these bands. So you could shape the transient for each band of frequencies, and then you can also boost and cut the volume of these frequencies individually. So that alone is super powerful, and then you can also run it in parallel. So I have this thing here. I'm just gonna solo. Sounds like that. So like, yeah, if I bring the high end all the way down, you're just gonna hear the spray in the high end, but everything else observed. It's gonna sound weird. So you can like really shape and like can get a lot of control out of your drums using this. And then this is also running in parallel with another one that is processed differently. So this one, for the most part, at least in the high and mids, is preserving the transient and getting rid of the tail. This one is doing a bit of the opposite, and then the gain is matched differently. And I also have this auto pan set so that it, I believe I have it set so that it cuts out the hats and just comes in only for the snare. And then I guess I am sidechaining this by the snare as well. Interesting. I don't fully remember all this. And then this is also running in parallel with just that. So then all these together, this creates like, I don't know, this really nice, like airy high-end spray thing, which without this on, to me this sounds like there's like too much like low mids, low, no, just like mid-range area, whereas with this, it's, I just really like the sound of how this sounds. I don't know how else to articulate it, but just using stab alone can give you a ton of control, and then running it in parallel with other stab configurations, you can get even more control, and you can work the drums in a lot of ways. And this is followed, all this is followed by just a K clip, which is just clipping a tiny bit of volume, and then there's a mid-side EQ, which I like slightly boost the mids here and reduce the sides because I felt like it was a little bit too wide. And then there is a compressor at the end. This is what it's supposed to sound like. And then over here, I have a disperser on the same audio pretty much. And I have this automation curve, and this is being layered with it. So without it, with it. So this is a free plugin called M Freeform Phase, and it's basically just disperser. If you like crank the depth all the way up, this lets you adjust the phase for individual frequency bands. And what disperser does is it's essentially like adding a, you can think of it like adding a delay for individual frequencies. So you can see how by adjusting the phase for all these individual frequencies, you're able, I'm like nudging the spectrum of certain areas in time differently from everything else. And that's kind of how disperser works. And this one is really cool because you can draw your own like dispersion, right? So now there's a thing happening before and after. Sounds fucking cool. Anyways, so I have that on the flap also running at like a really low volume, and it's just being layered together. And that's the snare pretty much. Now the percussion here, so this is a 128 rack. I think Il Gates popularized this a lot. He talks about it pretty often. Essentially what you're doing is you're creating this drum rack where every single knob, there's like a bunch of different elements, and each knob that you turn will change the sample. So like here, you can see P6 is being activated. If I just twist this knob, or I can just like randomize every single sound. So this is super powerful. I would recommend just look up like Ilgate's 128 drum rack, or just look up 128 drum racks in general on YouTube, and you'll find a bunch of tutorials on how to make them yourself. I'm not going to cover that because, again, it's already been done by other people. Why bother, you know? I'll try to find a tutorial and post it in the description, and then you'll see how that works. But this could be super useful for creating like drum loops. So for instance, if I want to make drums, I could just like make a kick, snare, and then I can like do something like that. Like half time that. Duplicate that. So we have that, and then I can just hit random. So you can see how that's super powerful, and you can just put all of your own samples in here. Each of these is just 128 samples, or not 128, but there's like a limit of 128. I just threw a bunch of samples that I thought were decent, and then yeah. So I have that going. Let me Command Z a shit ton so I can reset what it sounded like. And I just did this to make hats. This is only just hats, pretty much. And then there's that little dude here. Now, this is layered also with an IDM break sample, which is just a sound I made. I believe, I could be wrong, I believe I made this by just taking like a drum break. So let me get like, let me find some drum break sample, and then I use a vocoder on it and reduce the transient. So like, let's just take that, stretch it out. I'm gonna set the transients, preserve, lower this. And then all this with vocoder and an OTT. Yeah, this is getting closer. Now, I don't remember what the original break sample was, but that's essentially how I made that. And then these are all layered together. And then there is also the kicks. This is a little bit interesting. So I have two kicks. There's a big kick, and then there's a small kick. And so, why is the snare quiet? So the big kick, I have an erosion on it, right? So without the erosion, it sounds like this. Not a lot of high end. With erosion, there's that. And I'm also automating it so that the first kick on every like 2 bars, so like the downbeat, has like a high amount and a high width, basically. So it's a little bit louder. So there's like a different timbre for the kicks. And then also here you can see I am inverting the phase and adjusting the phase of the kick for every single kick after making sure that it aligns with the sub. So I have a tutorial on that, on like aligning the sub with your kick and making sure everything's in phase with each other. And I just kind of did this for everything. It's kind of boring and tedious, but it like cleans up the low end a little bit. And yeah, that's the drums. Nothing really special is happening with the small kick. So yeah, and then the sub down here, again, I'm not going to cover this. I made an entire like hour-long tutorial on this sub specifically. But essentially, I have the main like bass sub, which is here, which is playing at F 44 hertz, and then there's this layered like higher end sub that's kind of wide. And it's set to only play whenever this low main sub is playing. And then there is this wacky sub here, which pitch bends all around. And I have it set so that this side chains and lowers the volume of the main sub whenever this is playing in the low frequency range. So every time it like dips down, it cancels out. And then down here I have some little alien sounds. I unfortunately do not remember how the fuck I made these sounds, which sucks because I love them. I use them all the time. And so this just like pans back and forth using hard panning. And then, yeah, so then this next section, I think this section? Also, the bird sounds, the main bird sounds, I also have a frequency shifter on them, so that they, get, like, wobbly at certain points. Right? And then over here, it switches up a little bit, so... So just have this kind of melody thing, which, what even is this? It's just some, like, more chopped up synth plant sounds that I slowed down and repitched, and then I added redux. Actually, no, redux comes later. Yeah, there's some saturation that brings out like the overtones and whatnot, so it sounds a little bit crunchier. And then at this point, I bring redux. And so the redux, it like intensifies the sound a lot when it comes in. And then I have it automate the rate to go all the way back up, and it creates this cool, super high-end rising effect. And you can see here. That ends up going out of your hearing range, which I think sounds really interesting. And then I have some more sounds going on. I have these, like, textural sounds. These are just like more percussion sound. Honestly, that should be like layered with the drums. As you could tell, my project, like, arrangement, whatever, is shit. I'm really bad at keeping stuff in mind. So I also have these sounds here. And so right here, I'm like kind of emulating a doppler shift. So this thing is panning between left and right. It's going from all the way left, all the way right, and then back down. And whenever that happens, the delay of this echo is going down and going back out. And so what the delay corresponds to is the distance that the sound is from you, because the shorter a delay gets corresponds to how close an object is to you making sound, because the speed of sound exists, right? So like if a sound is closer to you, it comes to you faster, and that's what this delay does. And the natural repitching of the delay increasing as it gets closer to you and then goes away is the same as Doppler shifting. The natural pitch change as a sound gets closer to you and the sound hits your ear faster. It's the exact same thing. So that, and combined with some panning and like volume automation and whatnot, creates a Doppler shift, and it sounds super interesting. Without it, It's just like one stagnant pitch. This, it sounds like it's moving past you. Then I recorded myself playing tabla here. And like added some filter movement. This is a pretty cool trick. Sometimes I like to take a bandpass filter and like sweep it through the high range and then layer that with like just a normal audio chain. I mean, you could do the same thing, I suppose, with just like an EQ8 and just like sweeping a frequency like that. But it creates a cool like rising effect. I put some sample of some paper crumbling, which has a shifter on it on 1/24th mode, and it's wobbling up and down. So without it, something like that. And then this is going into a send, and the send is this kind of complicated stereo rack where it filters the sounds in some pretty wacky ways, and then the sounds then go into a swap delay and get panned around. So if you're interested in that, then watch my video on stereo swapping and delay rack design. And then there's one more. I have this guy right here, which just sounds fucking cool. It's just panning around the head. It's chopped up from this like really cool little mud pie that I made. And I made this mud pie by... what did I do? Oh, if you watch my tutorial on sound design generators, it's pretty much that exact thing where I used randomized sampling repitching things combined with a formant filter, and I just like glitched the hell out of the sound by repitching it and transposing it, and then I have formant filters moving around, and it sounds cool. And then so I cut these up and then pan them around and yeah, have this moving in the background. But this section, so like it builds an intensity here. Then I have a breakdown here. I just kind of get rid of the drums. Everything chills out a little bit. Sound plays for a while. Slowly fade out the drums. And then, yeah. The riser, I double time the main melody. Main melody comes back, and I double time everything. And I bring in, you know, the drums, the clap. I have this new layered clap here, which has a lot of reverb on it. And then I have this cool little sweep here come in as a riser. This is a fun sound, and I like making sounds like this. So essentially, all you have to do to like make sounds like this is I don't know, let's just take a random drum sound. Let's take that and like stretch it out a bunch. Here, let's do that. Let's take that sound. So a little bit more. And then let's take erosion. This. And then let's take an auto filter. Set this on bandpass mode. And then let's just increase the frequency. Then you can just fuck around with how you want to like warp it. And then you can also like increase this erosion. Alright, I'm getting distracted, but that's how you make that sound. Sounds fucking cool. And just depending on like what you use as your initial sound source, it will change everything. And then this section here, I just double tap the drums. I change up the pattern of the sub bass. Have a delay or a send that goes into here where I cut the sub out because, you know, I'm basically delaying this little sub thing. I don't want there to be sub interfering with the main sub that's getting delayed. Not too much interesting stuff is happening at this point. So here I bring in a tabla, and I do that thing again where I increase the filter sweep, which creates this cool sweeping in the high end effect. This is me playing tabla. I'm pretty bad at it, but luckily there's so much shit going on that I can just kind of like bury it in the back, and every once in a while you'll just hear a single note ring out. I think it sounds kind of cool. Oh, and then yeah, at this point I also layer and add in a new snare, which I think that happens here. Again, I need to like organize my project file much better. And there's also these like percussion things added. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole song and how that works. I hope you found some of that useful. I think the most interesting shit is happening. Well, I mean, the most interesting stuff is happening in the sub region, and so that's why I made a whole other like hour-long tutorial on sub basses in this song, which you should check out if you haven't seen it already. But I think what's going on in the drums can be pretty useful. There's probably some techniques in there that you don't use that maybe you want to adopt and try out, so that would be cool. Yeah, just let me know if you found this song breakdown helpful, and if I have any other songs that you're interested in me breaking down and talking about, then feel free to let me know in the comments. Yeah, all right.